For 42 years, drummers have argued about this drum intro.
If you're a drummer and you're listening, your mind is blown.
How the heck do you play that?
To this day, I still can't figure out the top of it.
Everybody's still trying to figure out how to play that.
I've just listened to it 5 times. That's not all in 4/4. He's overdubbing.
Sounds like a car that's backfiring engine or something.
Like, it's just unreal how perfect it is.
It was on the radio, this giant drum solo, and everyone loved it.
I've tried to play them and I can't.
Years and years and years of everyone trying to get.
Yeah, as far as drum intros go, that's the holy grail.
You probably heard it's a Lamborghini engine, a hot rod, a car backfiring, 4 bass drums, electronic drums, or layered drum parts. But all of these stories assume that Alex Van Halen didn't actually play this part. But what if he did? In this video, we're going to uncover how Alex created one of the most confusing and iconic drum parts ever recorded, why it sounds machine-like and impossible to play, and we're going to show you how to actually play it on the kit.
He was a genius because he played it at like 6,000 billion BPM as well, which like, what? Why are you doing that? And why are you doing it so long ago? How is it that good?
You gotta aim high. We all built on the shoulders of giants.
We've also spent the last few years interviewing drummers in the Van Halen circle to help tell this story. Let's dive in. Van Halen is one of the biggest bands in the world in the early 80s. They have MTV hits, platinum records, and they're headlining arenas as one of the most successful rock bands in the era. And now it was time to head back into the studio to record their biggest record of their career. But behind the scenes, things are starting to crack. Creative fights between the Van Halen brothers, David Lee Roth, and producer Ted Templeman are starting to happen. And in fact, the original title of the record was Animal Farm, referencing George Orwell and how much fighting was happening during the production of the record. Instead of going into a big studio like before, Eddie builds his own and calls it 5150.
1983, we were recording Diver Down, and half that record is cover tunes. And
there's a lot of criticism about that. Why weren't you guys writing more music? Why aren't you being more creative?
That's why I built studio, because I would rather bomb with my own music than be the world's biggest cover band, so to speak.
The studio is small and definitely not built for a full rock band like Van Halen. It was actually a racquetball court at first with only one room. So how do you record loud drums in a space like that?
That's when the Simmons came in on 1984, because 5150 was just the control room and then one tiny room. So it was like everything would bleed over into everything else. So they used the Simmons as like it wasn't really a creative, it was just like, we need to do this because it's too loud.
Alex ditches most of his acoustic drum kit other than the snare and the cymbals, and he switches to using a Simmons electronic drum kit running straight into the console. These were really popular in the 80s and used by drummers like Bill Bruford, Phil Collins, Neil Peart, and tons of other drummers. This meant less mic bleed, room noise, and space issues.
This drum up here sounds like this on program 1. But then of course it might sound if we take 14, which is more or less at random.
Completely different.
Indeed, and anything in between.
Alex defends the choice, saying listeners are already hearing acoustic drums through microphones live and on the record, so everything is already electronic in some way. But this is exactly where the debate around Hot for Teacher begins. I remember reading Ted Templeman's book, and he explained how the first few bars of the intro are actually the sound of a Lamborghini. Eddie Van Halen confirmed the intro sounds like a hot rod or a dragster, but said you can only pull that off with Simmons drums. Some will side with Templeman, but given the creative context at this point, we're leaning toward Alex and Eddie's version that these were Simmons electronic drums. That sound from the Simmons kit would become the foundation of the famous Hot for Teacher intro.
And Hot for Teacher, of course, is the ultimate one. That's one of the most famous drum intros of all time. To this day, I still can't figure out the top of it. Everybody knows once the groove begins, but it's what comes before the groove that to this day I still can't get.
The first 6 bars are where everything falls apart for most drummers. It's fast and there's lots of different rhythms being put together. When you hear it like this, it sounds almost impossible. There's no backbeat or obvious grid where all the rhythms fall. But when you break it down, you start to see what's actually happening in this section. And if you still don't believe Alex played this part of the intro, there's actually a stick click that happens less than 1 second into the song, and that's our first clue that Alex is actually playing this part. We talked to Greg Bissonette, who played drums with David Lee Roth from 1985 to 1992, and this was the first thing he pointed out.
I hear a stick click. in the first or second bar. So I'm thinking that maybe he started with an overdub of this. And then that continues, that Simmons 5 bass drum sound, I think, continues throughout the intro.
We also talked to Wolfgang Van Halen, Eddie's son, and Alex's nephew, and he also confirmed Alex was playing the Simmons pad with sticks.
That first bit is Simmons, adds the feet, and then the acoustic.
Bissonette was out here. We did a bit for an upcoming video, and he's like, listen to the beginning of Hot for Teacher. And he plays, he's like, at the 4-second mark, you hear a little
a stick
click.
You hear a stick click, yes.
Which I guess proves that it's played with the hand.
Yeah.
Knowing all of this, let's recreate the first part of the intro on the Simmons pad. Once we're through the very beginning, the next thing you'll notice is the sound of the kick drums. They're not traditional acoustic bass drums, they're actually sounds from the Simmons module. That electronic kick drum sound makes them feel almost sequenced, even though Alex is playing them. Now, when you're trying to play this, the toughest part is actually just getting started with the double bass part. Because it starts as a pickup on the offbeat, it can throw off your coordination and make you feel unstable. So for full transparency, I've been putting off filming this video for about 5 years because I always thought I wouldn't be able to play this drum intro up to speed. Mainly because of the fast shuffle on the kick drums, which I've never been that great at. And about 5 years ago, we did the original Genius of Alex Van Halen video, and I was still like 20 BPM under album tempo for the Hot for Teacher groove. But I wanted to challenge myself and see if I could do it 5 years later. So I started out warming up with 66 Samus's double bass course on Drumeo, then got to work on the Hot for Teacher intro one part at a time. All right, it's day one of learning the Hot for Teacher intro. And I started super slow, building it up from the very beginning. And it took about 6 weeks of practice. But it was cool to look back and actually see all of the practice time logged inside the Musora app and look back at how much progress was made starting from day one. It was one of those things that made me want to keep practicing every week, and it was motivating to see that goal tempo of 256 BPM get closer and closer every session. You can download the Musora app for free at the link below to start tracking your progress, plus you'll get access to thousands of lessons and courses. Online, there's lots of audio bootlegs of them playing Hot for Teacher in 1984, but there's only one video I could find where you can actually see them playing the intro, and unfortunately, it's not even focused on Alex. But from watching footage of his double bass playing in that same show where he's leading with his right foot, that same approach likely carries into Hot for Teacher as well. When it comes to playing the part, it's totally up to you if you want to go right or left foot lead. Once Alex introduces the shuffle feel, he adds in the Rototoms, which he plays on a few other songs on 1984. While there's no photos of Alex recording with them at 5150, you can clearly tell they're not Simmons toms, and we can see them on his kit in the Jump music video. In this next part, Alex starts splitting the hand pattern between the Rototom and the Simmons pad, and he also starts varying the right-hand rhythms almost in the style of what he's going to be playing later on the ride cymbal. It also becomes a bit more obvious that this is Alex playing this part live because you can hear some slightly uneven note spacing, a miss trigger on the Simmons pad, and even a miss hit or a muted stroke on the Rototom. Played on the kit, it all sounds like this. Underneath all this chaos, there's a really specific musical influence. This section feels a lot like Gene Krupa's groove on Sing Sing Sing. Alex has actually talked about his interest in jazz extensively, saying that he started out playing jazz when he was 13 and looked up to drummers like Louis Bellson, Ginger Baker, and Buddy Rich.
Buddy Rich was actually a very humble man who challenged himself until the very end.
For any of you who read the Brothers book that Alex put out recently, you may have also noticed that he thanked a bunch of jazz drummers in the acknowledgement section at the back of the book. So summing all of this up, in Hot for Teacher, you've got this crazy combination of electronic drum technology, double bass technique, big band era jazz phrasing. All of that is happening at once. Now, only Alex truly knows what happened in the studio that day, but we have proven that it is possible to play all of this in one take. And all of this brings us to the final section. A lot of people think Alex invented the double bass shuffle, but there's actually some history and lineage to this beat. Billy Cobham recorded a double bass shuffle on Quadrant 4, which was way ahead of its time for 1973. And then Simon Phillips takes that idea and pushes it even further, playing it in 7/8 with Jeff Beck in 1980. And Alex had already been exploring this idea on tracks like I'm the One, Sinner's Swing, and The Full Bug. He even cited Billy Cobham and Mahavishnu Orchestra as influences on Hot for Teacher. Eddie Van Halen also loved fast shuffles, something he traced back to their dad's big band days. So this isn't a brand new idea for Alex, it's just an evolution of the groove. Similar to how Jeff Porcaro created the Rosanna Shuffle by pulling inspiration from Bernard Purdy on Babylon Sisters and John Bonham on Fool in the Rain. What Alex changed in his double bass shuffle was the ride cymbal pattern. He adds these quick doubles on the ride cymbal bell that give the groove its signature sound.
He's bouncing the stick on there on the triplet, so he's going. And it's like one of the coolest things on the planet. So he's going out.
The 1984 tour book even describes this as a ZZ Top-like boogie beat. And it's probably no coincidence that Billy Cobham and Simon Phillips are also listed side by side at the back of Alex's book. At the beginning of this video, you might not have believed that Alex even played this drum intro at all. But now you know exactly what it is and how it works. We've broken down the entire Hot for Teacher intro, so here it is as Alex plays it on 1984.
You know, I think if he wasn't in a band with Eddie Van Halen, I think he would be lauded as one of the best, like, greatest drummers of all time. You know, as rightfully people do already, for the people that really get it. I think he's the closest drummer out there that ever got, you know, close to Bonham in terms of that feel. When you hear Al play, you know it's him. I don't think anybody on the planet has a more locked-in double kick shuffle than Al did. It's just unreal how perfect it is.
By the time 1984 comes out, Van Halen is massive. They're everywhere. Jump, Panama, and Hot for Teacher are heavily played on MTV, and this album becomes one of the defining rock records of the decade. But what makes Hot for Teacher really stand out is Alex's drum part. Even on a record full of hits, this is the moment drummers keep coming back to. It's fast and chaotic, and for a lot of drummers, it feels completely untouchable. But for Alex, that wasn't his main objective. Both Eddie and Alex were obsessed with what they called the Brown sound, an earthy heaviness they felt they finally captured on 1984. It was about the sound of wood, not metal, and something that was important to the synergy between Alex's drums and Eddie's guitar on those Van Halen records. Visually, 1984 became just as iconic as the drum parts and the sound of the record. Alex's massive drum kits from the 1984 era with multiple bass drums, Rototoms, Octobons, and Simmons pads, they looked like something from the future. Even though a lot of it was just for show, it inspired a whole new generation of drummers.
Do you know from talking to him what his kind of idea was behind coming up with these crazy setups? Was it for a function? Was it just for visuals?
A bit of both. I know, yeah, obviously, like, he used everything, but it's just like, you know, like, obviously the fire extinguisher on the drums is just for looks, you know? Might get too hot. But then, yeah, he had the, you know, the Rototoms, and that was always a thing that I remember. So I guess he added them on VH2 and never got rid of them.
And if you talk to almost any drummer out there, they'll tell you how Alex Van Halen and Hot for Teacher have influenced their playing in some way.
That's the iconic drum intro if there ever was one, and everybody's still trying to figure out how to play that in a way. You know, I mean, of course we can technically know what he's doing, but to get that groove, doing the shuffle beat at that speed, it's, you know, only Alex could pull that off. And I think at that time it was just mind-blowing for that to have to be the start of a song, you know, just iconic, epic.
Everything about him is unique. Everything he did was outside the box, but somehow it didn't sound too foreign, where it was just way out there. It was amazing, it was perfect for the song, and he's one of a kind.
Yeah, I'm a huge Alex Van Halen fan. Who isn't? Yeah, the intro for Hot for Teacher is another sort of drumming masterclass. It still sounds amazing. He's got so many amazing drum performances. The music of Van Halen will live on forever. Long live Alex.
Alex's playing is so different from everyone else's. I don't know. It's just, he just has his own style. And he always, like, every record was different. And he just changed things up. And when you first heard Hot for Teacher, it was like, wow, the double bass lick is just sick, man.
I think the first time I heard Hot for Teacher, I didn't even know double bass was a thing. And I was like, how the heck do you play that? Like the first time I heard it on the radio, other people were like, dude, you gotta check out this song. I'm like, how do you play that? Yeah, it sounded like there was like a million drums coming in at once.
When that album, Van Halen 1984 came out, I was just so into it. Before I got the gig with David Lee Roth, I played in the band, and we would do Hot for Teacher every night. What a super fun song to play.
Greg was with David Lee Roth right out of Van Halen, so I can't even imagine that, you know, because they were still doing ginormous places. But Hot for Teacher, I mean, come on, when you hear that on the radio to this day, it's so iconic, that groove. And I was talking to different drummers that played with Dave about what they do and how they interpret it. But one thing's for sure, when that double bass shuffle kicks in and that bounce on the bell, Alex Van Halen's playing it at that time, man, there was nothing touched that. I mean, come on, it was on the radio, this giant drum solo before the thing even kicked in, and everyone loved it.
The guy is a beast. What a monster player. And I think it's another one of these things where, to the non-drummer, you're just partying. They don't have to think about some kind of bizarre math problem that's been put on the chalkboard. He's letting the drummers in the room do that while the party animals can continue partying. The two worlds almost never meet, and there's only a few guys that, you know, have been able to be on the top of that mountain and actually have it work. Phil Collins, Stuart Copeland, Alex Van Halen. But Alex Van Halen is at the forefront because, I mean, people are really partying to Van Halen.
My wife is actually, she once a week at least tells me to try to learn the intro of that song, and she's so mad that I still haven't because I don't know if I can.
Amazing. Back in the 90s, the band that I was with, we supported Bon Jovi and Van Halen, and it was great to see him playing. His neck was in traction when we were doing that. That would have been about 95. He was doing all of that double bass drum stuff with a complete neck brace. Like just bonkers playing. I remember thinking like, that is mad.
The tempo was breakneck and he just laid it perfectly.
That is Simon Phillips and Billy Cobham meet Gene Krupa. And it's amazing and it's incredible and it's genius. And when I was coming up, learning the drums, I was like, what is happening? Is that a motorcycle?
Well, Alex, I met on the very first tour that he did with Van Halen of the US. So I basically did a 3-month tour listening to Van Halen every single night. Alex sounded great every night, killed it. But when I heard Hot for Teacher, I knew exactly where that was coming from. Quadrant 4.
The 1984 record itself is probably the reason that I play drums deep down in my subconscious. Alex has such a specific drum tone that you just know when it's Van Halen. The drums on Hot for Teacher are incredible. I've tried to play them and I can't. I've heard various rumors, and I heard from a really reliable source that those rumors were not accurate. It's all Uncle Al playing them.
Alex Van Halen Hot for Teacher is the very first thing I wanted to learn how to play once I got double bass drum pedal. I'm still struggling with it, but one day maybe I'll get it as tight as Alex did.
It's got that very signature sound, that style. I think that to me, Alex is one of the most underrated, least talked about drummers in rock out there. And it's unfortunate because that guy, You know, again, carving out a sound, the style. Again, you hear that snare drum and immediately you know it's Alex Van Halen. That's so hard to do. And then let's just go here, the intro for Hot for Teacher. Get the out of here. Amazing. The best, dude. Try to play that.
When that came on, man, that song starting with the drums. I was like, it was in 1983, and I remember hearing it, and I just, what is he doing? What's exactly, is there overdubs? And it's amazing.
I think that Alex Van Halen doesn't get as much props as he should. I mean, his groove is so happening, and his ideas and the parts that he came up with. And a lot of times, man, especially on the earlier records, he's really approaching things like a groove drummer.
He's one of my favorite drummers. What an incredible sound. He's another guy that, like I was saying, I love drummers that are just musicians in general that have their own, identifiable sound immediately. And Alex Van Halen is, and he's got such a unique sound.
The intro's insane. Like, that's like something that even like now it's hard to decipher what is actually happening. It's almost like to take it to the modern day, it's like, it sounds like a Meshuggah beat. Maybe once upon a time, guys of Meshuggah listened to Hot for Teacher, but it's like such a rhythmic chaos that I feel like didn't exist back then.
That intro alone, like that, to have the how complicated the shuffle is. So cool. Also, I was geeking out with this with Josh Freese on this before we did it for the Hawkins tribute in the UK. That one fill. I think that's after the second verse. Love that fill.
I still can't figure out that damn drum part. What an opening drum part, and especially then in the 80s. Oh my God, I couldn't imagine hearing that. I mean, I remember what it was like the first time I heard it, but I can't imagine hearing it back then when that had like never been done.
When I first started learning double bass, that song was always a challenge to play. Yeah, as far as drum intros go, that's the holy grail.
That intro is just so amazing. It's so iconic. One of the most underrated drummers in history. He's one of my all-time favorites, and he deserves so much more credit than he gets. I mean, obviously his brother overshadowed him, so much on guitar, but really, as far as drumming goes, Alex Van Halen was, man, so influential for me.
Yeah, Alex Van Halen, one of my favorite American drummers. I love Alex Van Halen. I played to those early records. Oh my God, so much. They do that shuffle boogie thing like very well. And I think he's underrated probably because David Lee Roth, the big, David Lee Roth personality, his brother, Eddie, and they probably overshadow him a little bit. I think that he doesn't maybe get as much credit as what an incredible trailblazing drummer that he is.
I think he's kind of like the unsung hero of that band, because without Alex, nothing sounds the same. But the cool thing about Alex Van Halen, other than just his drum tones, was the fact that he could really like swing his feet, which I had never heard anybody do before.
What a fun, great, iconic, everything. There's another drummer that you hear those drums, is Alex Van Halen. You can name hooks in Van Halen songs, and this is the most iconic drummer one of all time, for sure, in the Van Halen catalog.
I think he's one of the most underrated drummers, like, ever. Such a massive influence on the rock scene, in the 80s, but also, like, onwards. Like, I think he had that playing for the song, but, like, again, that iconic sound, that snare drum, like, he always did what was right for the tune. And I think to be in a band and to stand out when you have somebody like Eddie Van Halen in it, like, that's no small feat.
What a legend. Within a bar, it's Alex. And he slams it. He slams it like no other. Just a genius. There's only a few players that can play it really, really well. I think of like Simon, Billy Cobham. It's just an iconic drum groove. And I don't think anyone played it close since. Like, it was just perfect in every way.
42 years later, Hot for Teacher is still on the Mount Rushmore of drum parts, and for a good reason. Alex created an intro that pushed drumming to new heights and showed what's possible when you think outside the box. This is one of those drum parts I avoided for 20 years because it honestly felt impossible to play, But digging into it over the past few weeks was so much fun, even though it took a ton of work moving up even in 3 to 5 BPM increments. Now, down in the comments, let me know what you think about the Hot for Teacher drum intro and if you've ever tried learning it for yourself. And personally, I look forward to reading all of your thoughts once this video is posted. To close, I want to end with a quote from Alex about 1984 that sums up how he felt about this record. He writes, "I'll say it again, it's music. If it sounds good, it is good. That's what we were after, making something excellent. And I think we achieved that on 1984. It's the album that came closest to the sound we were always shooting for. It remains the record I'm proudest of and enjoy listening to the most." Same was true for Ed. With that, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.